Hello and welcome to What the Tech from Boast AI, where we talk with some of the brilliant minds behind new and exciting tech initiatives to learn what it takes to tackle technological uncertainty and eventually change the world. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Styx Intelligence co-founder Santosh Nair onto the show. Styx Intelligence is a next-generation platform helping organizations manage digital risk. In his role at Styx, Santosh leads the overall product vision and long-term strategy and development of its StyxView platform. Their mission is to protect organizations' digital assets and data with a platform that provides visibility while actually supporting remediation against threats. The platform is also key to helping businesses manage risk associated with digital transformations across various areas, including cyber, privacy, regulatory compliance, third-party, and brand. So, along with founding Styx Intelligence, however, Santosh has a lengthy background in the cyber risk space, as well as a founder, building new solutions in Canada and beyond. We have both first met Santosh through our friends at GetFresh Ventures, and I can't wait to hear from Santosh the role that the community connections can play in building great products and achieving growth. So without further ado, welcome to the show.
Looking forward to our conversation today.
Absolutely. I'm happy that you could join me. Tell us, how did you get into the startup space to begin with?
Yeah, so Paul, I've been at this, seems like a very long time now, about 25 plus years. So my background, I've always been fascinated with building companies. So since an early age, after I finished my graduation, one of my very first companies was literally out of a garage building computers and selling that to various companies. So that's kind of what got me going. And it's been a continuous journey for me. I always enjoyed sort of that whole entrepreneurial journey, building companies, working with great people, hiring people that are usually smarter than you, and really just doing that over and over again. And, with every company, it brings its own challenges. So I enjoy. And also the one thing that I've always enjoyed is the learning process. Learning, especially in the field, in cyber, is such an important thing. It's constantly evolving, changing. So I just enjoy the process of learning. For me, every day is a day of learning as well.
I love that. I feel like that is a key ingredient with a lot of the more successful founders that we talk to. They truly view life as their students. They are approaching everything as an opportunity to learn more, to embrace more. I've seen that firsthand. I think it's really cool when people don't have egos about it and they understand that I only have more to gain by bringing people who might have better perspective or even just a different perspective than I have. It's fantastic. And I also love too that you were building computers out of a garage. I feel like that is the stereotypical startup entrepreneur story. It's a unique one. I mean, we're not all Bill Gates, but it is so funny how much the garage is kind of the area where this all comes together. And now you were literally building computers back then out of the garage?
So I got my start in the late 90s. So as you know, PCs were becoming more mainstream, was getting adopted by a lot of companies. So there was a huge market back then. There was also a concept of where you could actually repair PCs. So when something went wrong with personal computers, you would actually go in and fix them. You would literally fix the motherboards and all the different parts of a computer. And that's, again, it was just an amazing experience to go through that back in those days as well. Networking was really starting to evolve and change. And also, a lot of the work that we used to do with my very first company that I co-founded, we used to do a lot of implementation for a lot of these big companies. Part of that was, building out these networks for banks and other large corporations. So yeah, it was a fascinating part of the early journey. And, as you're building this company, you get to wear many hats, right? You're doing everything from the technical side to the financial side. So I always find through my journey, I've kind of built a lot of skills along the way. I always find, if I had another version of me, what would I see myself doing? I could have easily started different companies and different verticals just because of the knowledge that you gain through the process, which unfortunately working for larger companies often at times, I find people miss out on that opportunity because you get very siloed in a role. So I always tell younger people, we have a lot of young people within our company as well. For me, it's also that mentoring aspect, building the next generation of leaders. it's so important for me. I enjoy that whole process as well. So, just giving them some of that knowledge and the skills to really think outside the box, think more than your area of focus, see how you can actually make a difference in the life of a customer, see how you can make an important contribution that takes the product, whether it's the maturity of the product or doing something innovative in the product. So I really give a free rein to a lot of my leads and let them go figure it out, just giving them sort of the foundation and the sort of that boundaries around what clients need in the market, what we're trying to build, what we're trying to achieve, and sort of just providing that mentorship along the way as well.
I love that. You hit on a few points actually that I want to call back to. But the last thing you said, I think, is one of the more important things. The foundations are what clients actually need and actually listening to customers and actually going out there and getting that firsthand. Another thing beyond the whole, we started out in a garage, that I hear with many of these successful founders who we have on this show is that that's a key part of their R&D. A lot of the research is literally the market research, literally talking to those customers. That's your best point of validation. That is where you're going to understand, hey, who's going to actually pay for this? Well, the people I've been talking to and the people I built this for, obviously. If you're building something without that end user front and center, which a surprising number of founders do, you're set up for failure. But if you're talking to those customers from day one and you're really listening and you're trying to absorb, and again, be that student so that you can provide the solution for them, you're just automatically starting from a better posture. You're not starting from a selfish place. You're starting from an open place where the possibilities are going to be endless. So love that key point. On that note, too, you were talking a lot about the team that you're building. And again, sometimes you get some people who are smarter than you, but you also get people with a lot of potential and a lot of people who you can help mold and who you can share your mentorship with, who you can tell, hey, we used to not throw out laptops when they were broken. We used to actually fix our desktop computers. I had the same gateway, I think, for 15 years when I was a kid. But tell me a little bit about how Styx Intelligence then is different from any of the other companies you've worked at, or really what sets Styx apart from any business in the market today that's in the cyber risk space compared to what you've seen in the past?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Boaz. So at Styx Intelligence, we're kind of primarily focused on cyber threats and risks outside of the core infrastructure. So all of the risk and threats outside. To give you an example, one of the things that we're seeing with a lot of companies, we work with a lot of retail organization, financial services, public sector. One of the things, as you might have experienced yourself on a personal level, is a lot of fraud and scams that are happening. So just as an example, you'll see a lookalike domain or a website that's being set up impersonating a company or a brand, and that's being used for phishing or fraud purposes, whether it's the employees, whether it's the customers of the client that we're supporting, or it could be their supply chain, right? So we're seeing a really kind of a tenfold increase in the number of scams that are happening, number of frauds that are happening, right? So you'll see a company, even in the traditional business, like transportation and all kinds of businesses, that we continuously see a lot of this phishing attacks that are happening, and also just the fraud-related crime, right? If you think about the overall cyber bad actors, it's all financial driven, right? So what Styx does is actually provides detection around this, whether it's a lookalike domain or someone set up a fake website or lookalike website impersonating a company. That's something that our platform automatically detects and monitors for. And then we also perform what we call takedown services. So whether it's a social media impersonation, whether it's a fake website, whether it's a brand being abused in other fashions, we actually do monitoring around. So that's just one example when I talk about external cyber risk and brand risk. The other things that we do is the platform also provides monitoring around third-party risk lens. As an organization, you're continuously working with third parties, right? When a third party has a breach, often at times the company that's using that third party's loss to know about it. So how do you become more proactively around managing the third party risk? Often at times, we're also finding that executives and VIPs are also targets of phishing scams. How do you manage that risk from an executive perspective, right? Because what bad actors are doing is looking at their digital footprint and using that for social engineering attacks. How do companies manage this? So these are all of the different risk areas that companies are not really thinking about, because over the last 10, 15 years, most companies have done a great job in improving the internal controls, improving cyber hygiene. But these are also a lot of the risk areas or cyber threats that we're seeing. On our platform, we also do monitoring around essentially intelligence around what do we see from ransomware campaign? What are different threats on a particular industry? What are some of the what are we seeing from what these bad actors are doing across those particular industries, right? So, and what we do is, which is very unique for us, we consolidate a lot of these different risk areas, this different attack surface, if you will, from a digital footprint perspective, and we try to contextualize and provide this into a single pane of glass, which is becomes very important for that mid-enterprise customers. Large enterprises, you'll see they have a lot of resources, a lot of cyber talent available. So they can actually rely on these point solution, best of breed technologies to solve a lot of these problems that I'm talking about. But when you think about the mid-enterprise, they don't have the luxury of big cyber teams, lots of people within their teams to do the investigation and the remediation. So this is where Styx comes in, really focused on that market segments. We want to bring that enterprise grade cybersecurity and risk management to that mid enterprise. So that's kind of what we're focused on. You also talked about, building a SaaS company and the journey. One of the things that we actually did from an early on is throughout the journey, as we were bringing clients on, we set up weekly cadence calls. We set up regular calls with our customers. We wanted to know how customers were using our product. What did they like in our product? What did they not like in our product? Where would they like to see enhancement in the product? Until then, I want to hear feedback. I want to hear how our platform can make a difference, right? And so that kind of becomes a continuous feedback loop from our perspective in informing sort of a more long-term product roadmap. Of course, we're thinking about some of the newer risks, whether it's AI-related misinformation, deepfakes, that's actually becoming more mainstream from a brand perspective, and enterprises are going to struggle with a lot of these areas. Of course, we're building towards that, but we also need to think about what are client problems today and how can we improve our product, how we can improve our platform as well in that journey.
Again, and it comes back to that continuous feedback. That's you always being open to learning too, and always being open to offer the best solution. That is fantastic. I also love that you really dove in on some of those challenges unique to the mid-market or those mid-enterprise companies that I think we at Boast totally see firsthand ourselves. While we're in a very different industry, the fact remains, those teams need to be focused on what they need to do best to achieve the growth that they're on the path for. So in our case, R&D tax credits, they can't leave those off the table. They can't not file for SHRED or not claim Section 41 in the US. But it could also be a 60-hour time drain when they don't have 60 hours to give in a day. They'd sooner leave the money on the table than risk derailing their tasks on a given day. It's a very, very similar thing to the damage to the brand or the damage to the reputation. What could happen outside of that kind of core protection that they may have set out from the start, but that they don't have their eyes on? Because again, it could be a full-time job on top of the full-time job to just make sure that they're doing their due diligence on that front. And again, looking outside the core. I've worked for many different startups. I used to work for a cybersecurity company. It's all about defending your interior, making sure that your defenses are up, don't letting anybody in. At the same time, same company, I used to get phishing scams from the CEO all the time. And I'm like, you guys are the cybersecurity company and somebody is aping our reputation. I'm like, I know this isn't our CEO who just emailed me for an Amex gift card. So we need to get somebody on it. I can just immediately think of use cases while you were talking through there that I have seen firsthand. I've laughed at it, but if the worst happened, the business might have been kaput after that. Who knows? Or at least very much not on the growth path that we had set for ourselves because we didn't have our eyes on what could be impacting us from outside the core. So just want to say I really, really related to all that, Santosh. And I love to that it's an enterprise grade solution, even if you're not necessarily there at the enterprise level. You are getting the quality of help and you're getting that cyber risk assistance that the enterprises can do in-house. Now, I'd love to know too, is there anyone else in the space who does exactly what you do? From what I understand, I can't think of anybody offhand, but if so, what sets you apart from other maybe cyber risk players in the broader community?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, in this day and age, there's always competitors. So we do compete against some big names in this space. And as you also seen, Paul, is one of the things that we're seeing is more and more consolidation in cyber. One of the things that I often, when I talk to CISOs, I often hear talking about consolidation because it's really difficult for customers to manage multiple products. Like, let's pick a product to solve one use case, and then let's add another product to solve another use case. That's quite okay, right? When you're a large enterprise and you want the best of the best, and also you have a large workforce that can manage those different areas. But if you dive into sort of that mid-enterprise, which I was alluding to earlier, that becomes a very complex and a costly endeavor. It's just not possible for customers to have these multiple products because one of the big issues in cyber, as you know, is the issue of noise, right? You have to collect a lot of data. You have to collect a lot of telemetry, and you have to make sense of that data to prioritize and remediate what's the most important risk. Really, having spent about 15 years in the operational side of security, that's one area that I'm really focused in on. How do I provide this contextualized data or data that's actionable, right? In cyber, we often talk about actionable intelligence, right? That's really what we're kind of focused on is, can we actually take a lot of this data that we're collecting? Can we make it simplified and not having to do search, not having to do complex queries to get at that data? I want to know what's happening, what I need to do to remediate the risk I'm facing. I want to be able to contextualize a lot of this data that I'm collecting and being able to act on them, right? We often talk about, companies that suffer breaches and loss of data. It also stems from the fact that exposure wasn't detected in a timely manner. It took them a long time to detect that exposure or the compromise of the system. And the mean time to detect and the mean time to respond can be really important metrics for customers, right? That's what we are kind of zeroed in on. Can we simplify a lot of this data that we present to our customers in our dashboard? Can we actually zoom in and contextualize a lot of this data that we present, right? Making it easy for customers to consume, providing a more prioritized approach to the remediation for our customers. Those are all important aspects that I see that are big differentiators for us in the market, because none of the competitors do that. They provide a lot of data ingestion. They provide a lot of this visibility, but then you need a high degree of expertise and people to be able to make sense of that data.
Absolutely. It's relevant data to the actual problem. It's visibility that doesn't just stop at visibility. It is
Correct.
actually supporting the remediation against those threats, which again, like I know the abbreviation MTTR and TTI, but like actual getting MTTR, sleeving that down, that's really, really cool and really tough. And at least when I was in the cyber risk market, we struggled to actually prove that we could help. So by actually listening and, again, contextualizing the insights so that they're actionable in a way that really makes an impact for your customers. That's what, from what I just heard, is the big thing that sets Styx Intelligence apart. I think that's really, really awesome. I'd love to know what's on for the rest of the year at Styx. Is there any exciting plans? Are you going to be expanding the product? Are you going to be offering new product stuff or anything that we can let our audience know about to keep their eyes out for?
Yeah, I mean, we're working on a lot of cool initiatives within the product. Some make it into the product, some stay on more as an R&D, in which takes us months, if not years, to bring to life. But one of the problems that we're seeing is this increase in ad base, whether it's search engine poisoning or social media based ads targeting customers. We do detection today, but we're trying to expand our detection capabilities into those areas. We're seeing this more and more, especially in the case of retail, where social media based ads are making a click through for unsuspecting users, whether it's an offer for a discount or a massive discount. They get redirected to fake sites and there's a scam. We're also seeing more and more impersonation, especially against executives, whether it's a LinkedIn profile or other social media platforms. Account takeovers is another issue that we're seeing. So how do we get better at our detection technology? We're also starting to see more deep fake and AI-related content being posted, right? We see this as a growing problem with enterprise customers as well. So we're kind of invested in building out some technology that will allow us to not only detect fake profiles, but also allow us to build out patterns and being able to detect when someone posts, whether it's a genuine post or a fake post that originated from that account, right? So all of those things are sort of new things that we're starting to build out in our platform. We have a lot that we do in our platforms. It's really about continuing to enhance some of the use cases and continuing to grow that platform from an adoption perspective within our customers.
I like it. To your point, there's so much evolving in the risk landscape right now, too, that you're always going to have a new project to work on, probably, in terms of identifying what is legitimate and what is real. I can't thank you enough, Santosh, for hopping on. This has been an absolute pleasure. Again, Styx Intelligence, it's visibility while actually supporting remediation. It's fantastic. It's contextual evidence, and it's really, really cool. You're a fantastic founder, Santosh. I cannot thank you enough for joining us on the show today.
Thank you, Paul, for having me on. And I have to say, companies like Boast and GetFresh Ventures really, part of the broader ecosystem. And it's really companies like us also rely on partners and an ecosystem of support that's available, right? Without that, I think it's hard for startups to build companies, especially as we're seeing an ecosystem of companies that are coming out of Canada. It's important to have that great partners and that whole ecosystem of support that enables companies like us to continue and build great technology and serve our customers. So I really appreciate you. And thanks for having me on. This was a great conversation.
Absolutely, Santosh. I couldn't have said it better myself. Again, the folks at GetFresh Ventures, Daraj, Valerie, hi. I can't thank them enough for how much they've taught me about success and what that looks like in the Vancouver community. And honestly, across Canada and across North America. Again, I'm based here in Boston, and just seeing how much energy and how much support they have for each other and just for the people. It's not even necessarily a following the next cool tech thing. It's about being really good people and making sure that we can give our pals the resources that they need and recognizing where that true passion is, where there's an entrepreneur who's going to get sucked up into the startup vortex because they're excited about the whole process. They like building things. They're builders, just like you, Santosh. So music to my ears. And again, we're so happy to have you on and have you as part of our ecosystem. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks for having me on, Paul.